Can you believe it's already April? Now, maybe at the beginning of this year, you decided it was your year to find the one. Maybe you decided that you're going to find the one in 2021. And we've got to the fourth month of the year. And I want to ask you, how's that going for you? Has it worked out? Or have you had challenges along the way? Now, I was listening to a podcast this morning. I brought this journal, I quite like it, and it's setting intentions for the year. Goodbye 2020, hello 2021. And each quarter they'll look at what worked and what didn't. So in this podcast, that's exactly what they were doing. And what I want us to do in this chat today is look at what you've done that's worked so far this year so you can achieve the goal without being at this time next year still being frustrated that you're single. Now, before I get started, I want to say that the podcast came from the UK and they were talking about how frustrated that they were, that it was almost a year of lockdown, that, 2 or 3 months they were optimistic they could say good things, but after a year it was really frustrating. Now, we are extremely lucky. We don't have any restrictions. Could you imagine being single and being stuck in your own company, not being able to go out, not being able to see your friends, not being able to go to work for an entire year? Now, the way the world is, we don't know what's going to happen. So make the most of the opportunities you have to go out and find someone, because you never know if lockdown might happen again. So if you had to review what's worked and what hasn't, I want you to ask yourself this one question. What do you think the reason is that you are still single? And I want you to be brutally honest about what the reason is. Maybe the reason is you've come out of a long-term relationship, you don't know how to date. Maybe you've tried dating and you're so frustrated because you can't find anyone that you even remotely like, so it leaves you thinking there's no good singles out there. Maybe you've been so badly hurt that it's hard for you to trust again. So I want you to write down what you think the honest reason is that you're still single. Now, when I coach people, and even in my own life, I'm a fan of radical responsibility. We can only take responsibility for ourselves and our lives. And yes, it's much easier to put the blame out there on something outside of our control, but that just makes you a victim and it doesn't empower you to get different results in your life. So I know a lot of people will think that there's no good singles out there. And when you walk around with that belief, our brain doesn't like to be wrong. So if you believe there's no good singles, you're likely to only see good singles in a relationship, or meet people who are liars or cheats, or not meet anyone. The reality is, if you had a different view, you might see a different reality. I like to say our brain gets billions of bits of information and it filters them down to what we believe and what interests us. So if you've ever bought a new car, you'll see this. I brought an i20 years ago and I'd never noticed them on the road until I bought that car. And after I bought the car, they were everywhere. Now, there were no more cars on the road. My brain just goes, this is interesting to Deb, we're going to let her see that. It does that with what you believe and ends up creating what we call self-fulfilling prophecies. So, I would get you to have a really honest look about what you believe, because the reality, I've worked in this field for 10 years now, and there is no lack of good quality singles out there. Now, you're out there and you're single. There isn't a lack. Sometimes what happens is we tell ourselves these bullshit stories that aren't true. We could say we're single because we're not good looking enough. We're not handsome enough. We could say we're single because, we're too much. We're not enough. We don't earn enough money. All of these reasons, and sometimes it keeps you powerless. So I want you to look at what you believe. And if you were to be really honest, what's the reason you're single? And what can you do? When I coach people, we work with how we can change this. Now, I am a fan of not putting all your eggs in one basket. There are so many ways that you can meet singles. You can meet them online, you can meet them in the real world, you can meet them at an event. They are literally everywhere. Often the approach we take in this modern dating world is what I find keeps people single. For example, online dating, people, say if you had a business, right? they have advice for business holders that you get a big funnel at the top of all your potential customers, and it filters down to maybe 10% of people will buy for you. Well, the same works with dating, but yet what people tend to do with their funnel is they have a really wide, narrow funnel at the top. So they're not letting enough people in to even find out if someone's right for them. Now, research has found that they've done lots of tests and lots of studies. So they've got a group of people and shown them photos of the opposite sex and got them to make some choices. And then they've tested whether those choices match up when they meet in person. And guess what? It's no surprise to say what they chose from a picture was not what they chose in real life. So we're applying criteria that's not real. People take terrible pictures. People are terrible daters. And that's a whole other video in itself. You know, a lot of men aren't very good at text messaging. They're not very good at putting a profile up. They're not very good at pictures or communicating. Yet there are amazing, awesome people in real life that you're not getting a chance to meet because you're ruling them out. And, you know, and there's other research that says what happens is as soon as we sit down to online dating, we rule off a third of the people automatically. That's a huge amount, 1/3, the minute you sit down. So the choices that people are making are too narrow and they are missing good people. Now, the other thing is, first impressions in the singles world absolutely lies, unfortunately. People are really nervous when it comes to dating and they don't put their best foot forward. Also, people's behavior in this dating space doesn't bring out the best in the opposite sex. Like the whole not wanting to waste time, so we're going to come with these interview-like questions, will actually turn your date off. I don't know about you. I don't like going to interviews particularly. I don't like feeling like I've got to measure up. And if I'm dating, I don't want to feel like I'm measuring up either. I want to go and I want to have a laugh. I want to have fun. I want to enjoy the person's company. I don't want to feel like I've got to measure up continually, and nor particularly do men, right? So if a man's come out of a failed relationship where he didn't feel good enough for his partner, he doesn't want to come into a dating situation and feel more of the same. So you may feel like you've got no time to waste, but some of the ways people go about online dating is actually wasting more time because they're not going into it having fun, being curious, really connecting with people. Now, before you even get to the date, I find a lot of how people approach it is transactional. You know, maybe you treat it like you're buying a product from Amazon with the option to return. It's not the best way to approach dating. You know, you've got this outcome, you've got this purpose. Instead of having a fun conversation and being interested in another human being, you're treating them like a product and you're not getting the results that you want. Messages that both men and women send online don't get them the results they want either. So sending, hey, how was your day, doesn't build a connection at all. Hey, how are you, doesn't build a connection. A lot of women will fall for a guy through words. But if you're not speaking any words, if you're not building a bridge of connection in those messages, you're not even going to get to the date. The other thing where I find it's transactional is a guy might get a date and not message the girl until he's on the date. That he misses out a real huge chance to build some excitement in her about meeting her. Now, often guys tell me, and you know, as a coach to men and women, I find it fascinating because men think one way in dating and women think a totally different way. And the two don't really match at all. And sometimes the reason we're missing good singles, and it is amusing when I talk to a guy and I say, this is how women really think. The guys look at me and go, no, they don't. I'm like, okay, I'm a woman. I know how we think. And working with endless amounts of women, it you know, is pretty consistent, and the guys just don't believe me when I tell them that this is how a woman thinks. But vice versa, women don't believe the same thing when it comes to guys, right? So there is that disconnect, but I went off track. So with the messages, you can send messages that will build interest and a connection with the other person. And I can't read your comment because I'm in the middle of this. Look, I think we all want to meet someone, you know, we're all too superficial when it comes to dating, both men and women. I see it on both sides. I see people going in, they want someone that lives 5Ks from their house. They want someone who is financially secure, who will make them laugh. Maybe the second time around, they're looking for Elle Macpherson and Brad Pitt. They're not open to different possibilities. Unfortunately, biology plays some roles in this. You know, I've got a podcast at the moment which you could listen to, why women choose the bad guy, and that will explain some of that genetic thing and why women can be so choosy when it comes to the guys that they choose. Anyway, back to track. The situation is, on both sides we can be superficial, so how do we bridge the gap to get better results? What you want to do is you want to build a real conversation that's fun. You want to build some sort of relationship that's not interview based. So you want to have a real conversation with a real person that you enjoy. And if you're not having fun in that chat, you're not going to follow through to get the results, right? So instead of, hey, how was your day? Tell me about yourself. That is one of the worst questions you can ask. Tell me about yourself. A better question would be, hey, I saw in your profile you really like yoga. Oh, I've tried it a couple of times. I'm really not flexible. Have you got any tips for me? So you're generally interested in what the person said. And if you've gone on a date with the person, you find out what they do, they've got a busy job, you could be saying, oh, did you manage to get out of the office in time and make that yoga class, or at least do something fun, or even have a lunch break? And then maybe add a little bit of your own information in there. Yeah, look, I was flat out, but I did manage to sneak off for a really unhealthy KFC lunch. My bad. Whatever, you're showing some personality in those messages and you're building a real connection with the person. Being interested in them with small talk that goes beyond small talk. And we're not just on a fact-finding mission to find out whether the person meets our criteria, because people can and do say anything online that really actions will speak louder than words, and the only way you can find that out is when you meet them in the real world. And you know, we really don't get to know anyone for a couple of months because people take a while to feel safe and to be vulnerable and show who they really are. Sometimes people do fall in the trap of telling you what they think you want to hear. But as I said, the one thing that I do teach people in dating is trust how you feel, because your gut feeling around things will give you some indication of a lot of things. And I do find that when people make some wrong choices, they did know from their intuition and they overrode it. Sometimes they've relied way too much on chemistry, and chemistry just shuts down your judgment in relation to the person you're dating. So you can literally see the things you don't like and not care, but down the track that will come out. But at that point, your gut feeling is always telling you a million things. Listen to it. So I've kind of gone off on a lot of tangents. There's so much information and so much support and help I can give you when it comes to dating, so you can get the success. But what I wanted you to get from this video is, can you look at what you've done that's worked so far this year? If you've not gone on any dates, how can you, for the next 3 months, set aside time for dating? Because a lot of men tell me that women are often too busy. So maybe you could set aside 2 days a week where you're going to go on dates. Don't waste, I think the average person can waste like 10 hours on internet dating apps. That's too long. Limit yourself a set amount of time to interact, and interact properly. You know, I know that when I used to do internet dating, I was the worst. I'd send one-word answers. It doesn't build a connection. So spend some time around that, spend some time for dates, and go meet people in the real world. But instead of being superficial and judgmental, I want you to be curious, and I want you to be a bit more lighthearted and bring the fun back into dating. Try a mix of ways to meet people. That could be talking to people in the coffee shop while you're getting a coffee, being present in real life. It could be coming to events. It could be online dating. If you're looking at some of the thought processes or the stories you're telling yourself that's holding you back, have a look at how you can change that. If you're struggling with having some confidence or knowing what's holding you back, book in a free discovery call, right? 20 minutes, you've got everything to gain and nothing to lose. And or even book in one coaching session where we can get you started on a plan, an action plan that's going to work to get you some results. So you can prepare by the end of the year of being in a relationship, or you can prepare to be the person you need to be to meet someone. Maybe you've got hurts that are holding you back. You know, I do work with people to sort out that so they can open their heart and feel safe to let love in again. Whatever it is, don't leave it to chance. Don't waste another 3 months. We're really lucky in Perth, WA. You can go out on dates. You can do something. So don't waste the opportunities when you can. And if you're struggling to get results, reach out to me. I can definitely help you change the results. Because if nothing changes, nothing changes. Now for the ladies out there, I'm really excited. I've got a combined workshop with Your Colours. And that workshop is all about, they're going to give us a makeup and colours demonstration. And then they're going to let you recreate that makeup, why they're there to guide you. So I don't know about you, sometimes you go for these makeup demonstrations or you get your hair done and you can't recreate it. This is all about giving you an updated look that suits you and will make you your best. And sometimes when you look your best on the outside, it makes you so much more confident to go out there and dating. So with coaching, sometimes I work from the outside in and sometimes from the inside out. It's all about getting you confident, getting you results, because I know that there are so many amazing singles out there and it's never too late and you haven't missed out on your chance to find an amazing relationship that makes you smile, that makes you happy. Anyway, sorry, I spoke way longer than I meant to. Anyway, whatever you do today, I hope it puts a smile on your face. Take care.